and welcome to LFC Focus. It is post-match reaction showtime after Liverpool have just lost yet another game after we've gone pretty much the entire season without ever having to go through that sensation. Now, over the last 4 matches, we have been defeated 3 times, and I think it's fair to say on every single occasion, including tonight, Liverpool have deserved to be the team coming away with nothing. You know, at Stamford Bridge this evening, the performance was just not up to scratch. And often when I do these kind of videos where I talk about us losing or us drawing, or even games where we've won it narrowly, I often like to start with actually crediting the opposition when they actually come up against Liverpool and put in a decent performance where they deserve to get a result out of it. I think it's entirely fair to give them the praise for that. But tonight, despite the fact Chelsea won the game against, Liverpool FC, the supposed best team in the world at the moment, I don't even think they were that good, to be honest, and that's kind of reflected in the goals they scored. The goals they scored were very much errors from Liverpool players. They weren't through any kind of individual Chelsea brilliance. It was through us shooting ourselves on our own feet. I don't even need to really describe how that occurs with the first goal. It's very, very obvious what happens. Adrian just somehow lets the ball squirm through him. I don't know what he's really trying to do. I don't want to criticise him and call him a rubbish keeper because he has done so much for us so far this season, and he's already done more than I think any of us would have ever demanded from him in a Liverpool shirt. But just that one moment, he takes an extra step to the right when he doesn't need to. He pushes himself just slightly away from the ball to the point where when it does hit him and he doesn't hit him properly, instead of it just bouncing back out as you would have hoped it would have done when he doesn't get the right connection and doesn't welcome the ball into his arms, instead it ends up bouncing into the goal. It's a bit of a freak one at the end of the day, and it's not a sign of the Adrian we have seen so far this season for Liverpool, as I've said. So I don't want to criticise him too much, but it was symptomatic of what was going on for Liverpool tonight, where just none of the players looked at it. The second goal as well, my mind keeps going back to when Ross Barkley is running through on goal. Our defence is all over the show. Virgil van Dijk has completely abandoned his post to try and win a ball, and it hasn't worked out. And then Fabinho just looks about half as fast as he has ever looked in a Liverpool shirt before. I thought he and many others tonight were way off the pace. It's hard to really pin down what's going on with Fabinho. I think it is probably a fitness thing. You look back to when he first found his way into the Liverpool side back at the sort of halfway point of last season. It's fair to say it took him a while to find his feet, and I think a lot of us assumed that was a tactical thing. It could have been a fitness thing as well. It could have been just a matter of he needs to get a real run of games under his belt before we start to see the player we know can perform in a Liverpool shirt. Hopefully we see it between now and the end of the season, but I'm sure if Jordan Henderson were available for the games that we've got coming up, Fabinho would almost definitely be straight out of the starting 11, or at least Henderson would be put in alongside him to offer him some much needed support, because he has been way off the pace since he returned to the side after the injury that he picked up right at the start of December, and that impacted us today, not only going backwards but going forwards as well. He has been such a useful figure for Liverpool in the past in terms of unlocking deep lying defences, and that's the thing with this Chelsea defence. They did commit players back, but it never looked like they were, pulling off a brilliant tactical plan. It wasn't like a Mourinho masterclass defensive performance or anything like that. It just seems to be a matter of Liverpool were not testing them enough. Once we got past that first 10 minutes of the game or so, where it was fairly even, it was 50-50, we created a few chances, they created a few as well. We just offered absolutely nothing, to be perfectly honest. We barely even got near their goal. I'm pretty sure the last shot on target we have of the game is in the 31st minute, which when you are chasing a match for that long is utterly ridiculous. It's not really acceptable, if we're being perfectly honest, when you compare it to the standards Liverpool, pardon me, have set for themselves so far this season. And listen, maybe they have shot themselves with the foot almost. They've set themselves a bar that is almost impossible to reach. And to be fair, when you look back at all the brilliant teams, they all have difficult runs. Even the Manchester City team that got 100 points and were centurions and history makers had a little bit of a blip around this point in the season where they went out of the FA Cup to Wigan. They got knocked out of the quarterfinals of the Champions League against Liverpool, and they got beaten in the Premier League by Man United, that scuppered their chances of winning the league at home against their massive rivals and stuff like that. They had a blip as well. So it was almost inevitable in a way that Liverpool were going to end up in this difficult position. But what's annoying for us as fans is it is kind of hard to see where the turnaround's going to come from, because it's difficult to pinpoint exactly what's going on. I think there's 2 potential avenues you can explore in terms of what has led to this Liverpool slump. One of them is an issue of rhythm, and that's been brought up a lot coming out of that winter break. Something Jurgen Klopp has denied as well. He's been very keen to suggest that rhythm is not a problem at all. That's not why Liverpool have been putting in the disappointing performances that we have been since the winter break. And the other option is the idea that teams have maybe worked out a little bit of a way way to play against Liverpool. And I would have been willing to accept that kind of idea after the Atletico loss and the Watford loss, because both of them were fantastic performances from the opposition where they had a brilliant tactical plan and it was executed to a point where it was almost impossible to actually get through their defences. But Chelsea today were nowhere near that kind of level. It really did feel like Liverpool were just not doing themselves any favours whatsoever, and some of it is a personnel issue as well. I think it's quite difficult to be a coherent unit when you have somewhere up to, I believe it was 7 changes to the starting 11, and those changes were understandable, and as fans we all favoured them, and it was always going to be a very, very tough task for Jurgen Klopp to strike the balance. But I think he made some key calls today that just didn't go our way at all. Starting Divock Origi, clearly it was obvious from the first 15 minutes of the game or so that he was nowhere near the pace, and also just playing off of that left wing. It's worked in the past when he comes on as a sub, when he's up against maybe a tiring fullback, and that direct dribbling style can really, really prove fruitful, and it can also create space for other players who've been on the pitch since the start of the match as well. He's got goals from substitute appearances and stuff like that. He's got assists from it as well. But when he does that left wing role from the start, it's pretty much never worked. Looking back at one of his key best performances in Liverpool shirt when he was starting the match, it probably was that game against Barcelona where he played primarily down the middle. I know he drifted out wide at times, but I think Jurgen Klopp realised during that game that Mane down the middle and Origi out wide was not working, and he switched it up and he played Origi down the middle, and obviously it produced fantastic results as he gets that brace that gets Liverpool the win. And even when he comes on in the European Cup final as well, he's playing down the middle there as well. So I don't really understand why we're persisting with this left wing thing. Like I said, it has worked in the past, but it has to be a horses for courses type thing. It's got to be a thing where he is coming off the bench and we've identified a weakness that we know he can exploit, because when he does it from the start, almost, universally, he is nowhere near effective enough, and he slows down play as well. He causes problems for the other Liverpool players on the pitch, and speaking of the other players, like I said, it just seemed a lot of players were off the pace today. Fabinho, I've already mentioned, was nowhere near good enough. Nico Williams had a good early 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so. He had some great forays forward, put in some wonderful crosses, took up some good positions defensively as well, tracking back. He was very, very solid. But after that, he just seemed to lose his way. I think he was probably getting crowded out the game as Chelsea realised we were trying to use him as a very solid attacking outlet. Of course, working down that right-hand side with Sadio Mane, that was the only place where any of our attacking threat was going to come from. Having Origi on the left wing pretty much negated Andrew Robertson for the entire game, so he was never really able to provide a huge threat going forward, even when he did have opportunities receiving the ball in space and stuff like that. And also, because of the fact that Divock Origi was playing out wide, we didn't have that outlet in the box for crosses as well, which was causing a problem. And then launching balls forward, we didn't have him winning knockdowns because he was too far wide, he wasn't playing centrally, he wasn't playing deep enough. It just felt that he was never in the right place at the right time for Liverpool tonight. But getting off of Divock Origi, I don't want to, slate a player for too long, because it feels unfair given that pretty much all the players in this Liverpool side we know are good. We know they are, at their best, fantastic footballers who deserve to be wearing that Liverpool shirt. It's just far too many were off the pace tonight. Curtis Jones as well just never really felt like he got a foothold in a game, which is a shame, because as you all know, he's a talent that I absolutely love. I think he's got a huge, huge future in Liverpool shirt, and I do want to see him make more appearances between now and the end of the season. Obviously, that's going to be a little bit more difficult now the FA Cup isn't an option, but surely as the league gets more and more wrapped up, and potentially even wrapped up within the next few games as we go on through the season, he should get some opportunities in that midfield, because he is clearly a talent, even though he just wasn't able to offer too much tonight. I thought Mane was just stifled to the point where he had moments of absolute brilliance. He could work his way around the defence, but it almost just felt like, one task too many. He'd be able to get one run, 2 defenders, but when it came to getting round the third or beating the keeper from a difficult position, it was just too much for him to try and achieve. Minamino as well, I think it's really tough to analyse him for Liverpool, because I do feel like if it wasn't for the release clause situation, we never would have bought him in that January transfer window. We would have done what would have been really the sensible thing, bought him over the summer, or maybe bought him and even just loaned him back to Red Bull Salzburg or anything like that, and then had him over the summer, had him with a full pre-season, and then he plays that first half of the season where the pressure's off a little bit, and we all kind of are aware that the new Jurgen Klopp signings take a while to bed in and learn the system and stuff like that. It does feel like this season it's never going to really happen for him. him. He might get some more opportunities like Curtis Jones, like Nico Williams, like those other players, but I don't think he's ever going to get a consistent run in the team. And also it's very, very difficult for him, given that the position Jurgen Klopp seems to be really liking him in at the moment is that false nine position down the centre with the wingers either side that Firmino has been playing so much. And when Firmino's so good at that position, it's hard to really justify anyone else taking it unless it is for the sake of rotation. And we will see some of that between now and the end of the season. But the idea of him getting an extended run in the side is, unless we change formation and maybe switch to a 4-2-3-1, which is a possibility given what's going on at the moment. I think given how we are struggling to break teams down, having an extra player in the front three and also, you know, an extra line even in the attack. So you have maybe Mo Salah as the standard option as the one playing furthest forward, and then further behind you have an extra line of three, and then a midfield two who can push forward, who can go box to box but can also sit off, and then the fullbacks are of course then facilitated to get forward as well. That's a potential option for Liverpool, and I think we are now getting to the stage where Jurgen Klopp does have to consider tactical tweaks, looking ahead to what is a make or break tie against Atletico Madrid. I know I keep coming back to that in all of these videos, but with the Premier League wrapped up, and or at least almost wrapped up, and with the FA Cup now dead in the water as well, that Atletico Madrid game is kind of the last moment standing in our season, where if that doesn't work out, that's kind of the end, really. There's not really much else we can do apart from just see things home and dry in the Premier League. So Liverpool have got to have a really good idea of how they're going to turn that round against Atletico, and it's possible that just playing 4-3-3 as we always have done and trying to endlessly just batter them down isn't going to be enough. And Liverpool have got to look at alternatives. 4-2-3-1 is definitely an option we've had there in the past. We have also used a kind of 4-4-2 system looking back to, I think, the 17-18 season. That worked at times, and also very occasional moments, sometimes in-game tactical switches in the previous season as well have worked out, switching to 4-4-2. So I do think we've got to start thinking about changes, because it just felt very, very stagnant for Liverpool today. It felt like every player was going through the motions. They didn't really look like they had any creative spark. It never looked like any player was coming up with any moments of genius. They just looked like they were trying to follow, you know, the standard code, follow the system, and hope that at the end of it a goal comes out of it. But if you aren't willing to try and create moments of brilliance at this level, you're never going to get goals and you're never going to win games, and that's what Liverpool need to change at the moment. So it's a disappointing result. It's a hard one to take, and obviously now treble hopes are dead in the water, which is very, very disappointing. But a wonderful double is still on the line, provided Liverpool can turn things round. And, you know, if I can back anyone to do it, it's Jurgen Klopp, his coaching staff, and these wonderful Liverpool players. So that is all for today's video. Thank you guys very, very much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, as always, you know what to do. Hit the like button down there. Hit that subscribe button there if you're new around here. Check out some of the other videos that have been out on the channel over the past few days as well. Don't forget to follow at LFC Focus TV on Twitter, and I'll be back soon with the pre-match content for that game against Bournemouth at the weekend. Until then, bye for now.